welcome to the Tim Heale Thirsty Thursday live stream. This is a quick trailer for this Thursday's live stream. This Thursday, we're going to have some very, very special guests, some famous guests on, and we're going to talk about boating. So, everything to do with boats, sailing, cruising, you name it, rebuilding boats, and cruising on Princess 58s. There's a little teaser. Somebody special's coming on about his Princess 58. We're also going to hopefully have on the guys from Ship Happens. So this week's going to be a real special. This is going to be a real fun evening. So be sure to tune in at Thursday at 7 o'clock until 9 o'clock. We're going to be running for 2 hours. We're going to talk about everything boating. So be there or don't be there. Thanks.
Host Tim Heale.
Good evening, everyone. Here we are, back in the room. This one's going to be a special. We're going to talk about everything boating tonight. So whether it's cruising, whether it's racing, whether it's jumping on and off sailing boats, or whether it's stinky motorboats, we're going to talk about it. Unfortunately, a couple of my special guests have been unable to join tonight. Something else has cropped up. They're not feeling well and are unable to join. However, I do have some other guests that are going to come along and going to contribute to this evening's fun and frivolity. So, without further ado, where do we start? Right, sailing. Just give you a little bit of heads up. In the background there is looking out over Old Grimsby and St Helens in the Isle of Scilly. And it was somewhere that we went sailing a couple of years ago when we were doing around the UK. So we're going to have a chat about that. We're going to have a chat about cruising. I've got a mate of mine coming on. You've seen him before, my mate Harry. We're going to have a chat about cruises. Myself, I've been on several. Actually, I've been on a lot more than several. I've been on a lot of cruises in the past. I've been with all sorts of cruise lines. I've been with Fred Olsen's probably my favourite. I've been on Cunard, I've been on Mary, and I've been on Liz. We've been on P&O. That's the other P&O. That's not the cruise. That's not the ferry ones. That's the hopefully yes. Can somebody just ping me, say that yes you can hear me in the chat box, please? Just say yeah, I can hear you. I think as far as I can tell, it's going out. And yeah, I think it is going out. So thank you very much. So if you want to join in, give us a shout. If you want to ask a question, stick it in the old in the chat box there, and we'll do our best to answer the question. If we can't answer the question, we'll look it up and we'll come back to you later on that one. I think that's the stock answer on that. So this is sorry about last week. Unfortunately, last week I had to go off to the theatre. We went to see Made in Dagenham, and it was a local theatrical society. It was a good laugh, actually. They did quite well. So next week we'll probably have another open forum. But this week, what we're going to do is we're just going to talk as much as we can about boating of some description or other. So we're going to have a chat about sailing. I mean, there's an awful lot. We could do the whole programme just on sailing. However, that'll be, it's not discriminatory. What's the other word I'm looking for? I'm looking for another word other than discriminatory. It'll be something like, yeah, we'll go with discriminatory. We won't let it go as discriminatory. We'll talk about all manner of boating. We'll talk about ribs. We'll talk about motorboats. We'll talk about cruise liners, and we'll talk about dinghies. So I know there's a few people out there that are dinghy sailors. We'll also talk about rebuilding boats. Now, one of my special guests that was coming on this evening, unfortunately, they're not feeling well or unable to. They're mental. I mean, they're crazy people. They've gone and bought themselves a 72-foot World War II motorboat, which is which they're doing up. It's it's anchored up at the moment up some river outside Liverpool, and they're replacing all the frames on it. So when they do actually move it, it ain't going to fall to bits on them. And they've got a YouTube channel that they're putting stuff up on. So when this is over, don't do it now, and we stick with us. Go and have a look at their channel. They've been going for a while now. They've got this boat, and God dear, what a state it was in. But they're getting there. They're replacing all the frames. They're talking the ribs on it, and yeah, it's quite an interesting old channel that they're doing. One of my other guests that I was going to have on, unfortunately, he's had to pull out this morning. He was all geared up to come on, and it's old Nick himself, Jim Davison. He's a boater. He's got a Princess 58, I believe it's a 58. He did a walk round with it with Aquaholics, and so he's been a boater for an awful long time. So he's had a few different boats in his time, but he was going to come on, but unfortunately he's had to just drop out. Something cropped up that he couldn't join us. But you'll have to make do with me, and I've got a few other really interesting friends coming on. So I'll let them finish their tea first. Give us a thumbs up when you're ready to come in. So I've got some guests lined up in the old the green room at the moment, so they're going to give us a nod when they're ready to come on. So what we're going to talk about. So, like I said, the image behind me is looking out over, I think it's Old Grimsby, looking across to St Helens Pool in the Isles of Scilly, where we took the ship's cat round the other year, which is quite well documented. We found ourselves on our way back down the east coast of England. We run into a bunch of lobster pots, shall we say, that held us fast. So I didn't actually put out a pan or a mayday. I just called up the Coast Guard just to inform them that we were just off the side of the shipping channel. We were safe, no problem at all got life jackets on, but we've picked up these lobster pots, and it's holding us fast, and we're going to try and cut ourselves free. The Coast Guard said, well, that's all right, son. We'll send out the Atlantic class lifeboat. He's got loads of lights on, and they'll put the lights on, and you can see what you're doing. Because this was like dark o'clock at night, and it was dark. So that was at, what was that? We actually got captured about 9:30 at night, and it was some sort of 6-7 hours later that we finally managed to get free and get underway. By which time we missed the weather window, which was a real pain. So we ended up having to go into Grimsby, which wasn't too bad. We spent a week in Grimsby waiting for the next weather window. But I had the opportunity to see quite a few mates that live up in that area, so that was good fun. And then we left there, and it took us 2 days from there to get down to Ramsgate, and we managed to sail all the way. And we were following a gale, actually. we left when we left Grimsby Dock, Fish Dock. It was blowing 6 in the channel there, and then we got out to sort of the entrance to the wash, and it was blowing 7, gusting 8, and then we got into the wash itself, and it was a proper 8, but it was from the north, so it wasn't too bad. And we got a bit of an handkerchief out of the foresail, and we were steaming along, and we went down the outside of Yarmouth at the early hours of the following morning, and then we got down to Ramsgate about lunchtime, I think it was. So we decided that rather than carry on because the wind was starting to die off a bit, we dived into Ramsgate for the night, and then left really early in the morning the following day. It was really dark o'clock. I mean, you could barely, I mean, it was pitch black. It was one of those really, really dark mornings, and trying to weave our way through the Goodwin Sands. God, it's a bit of a challenge, I tell you. I mean, the Goodwin Sands are well known for grabbing boats and causing problems, but and with all the lights in the distance in the background, it's trying to work out where the actual channel lights were because they move the buggers about quite a bit. But we managed to get through there, and we ended up took us 16 hours from Ramsgate back to Gosport, and we had a tide with us all the way for some excellent reason. I think that's my good navigation skills and one thing and another. Anyway, I think I'm about to bring in some guests, so thumbs up who's ready to come in. Okay, here we go. My first guest of the evening is Becky Walford.
Hi
Hello,
Tim, how you
Becky.
doing? How you
I'm doing
doing?
okay, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm sorry about the late arrival, but I'm here now.
No problem at
Just
all.
trying to get the camera right. I'm doing it on my phone, so it's I couldn't make
Oh,
it work on
excellent,
any other platform. But we're here, and I've got my headphones on. So yeah,
excellent,
you were
excellent.
quite quiet earlier, but I think you've sorted it, haven't you?
All right, yeah, I can push that up just a fraction. I think I'm good. Um,
That's better. Yeah, can hear you
yeah.
now.
So I've got my little posh mic here. Must, this is a
Naturally, naturally.
Suntronics Podcast Pro. It's cracking mic. Hopefully the sound quality is good. It's not echoing too much in my
No, no, it's good. It's
studio
good.
here. So thanks
Are
for
we, are
joining
we
us. How
going to
was
see?
work today? Just
Oh, so I
just
work
want
for
to
the
give us.
Queen's Harbour Master in Portsmouth, and I'm involved with port safety primarily. I've just had a few days off, so when you come back from a few days off, it's always a bit like, I've got so many emails. What shall I do? But the good news was that the aircraft carrier HMS Queen Elizabeth came in yesterday, because those of you that are
Oh,
based in Portsmouth will note that it's been a fairly bitter windy
yeah.
day here with snow showers, hail, and blue skies, but primarily a northerly breeze. So the
I
pilots
don't
are a
know
bit
where all that
reluctant.
came from.
No, a lot of
So
hot air, or
so
should I
Liz
say
came back in
colder?
yesterday because I saw that both the carriers were out the other day.
Yeah, she came back in. She came back in yesterday because of the weather today wasn't very good for moving carriers, so they took the opportunity to bring her in a day early when there was no wind. So that all went to plan, which was good, and
Yeah.
just sort of tidying up afterwards. Really, I
Did
guess it was quite
did they
quiet
turn
traffic wise.
around? Did they turn around
Oh no,
and sort of just bows north? Is it?
sh yeah, she's bows north, so she's on Victory Stroke Sheer Jetty bows north because her twin sister will be back at some point in the not too distant future and take the other carrier, the
Yeah.
carrier berth on Princess Royal Jetty there. So I don't know when she's coming back, but they've
It
decided to put
it does
her
look
where she is.
impressive when the two of them are alongside. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's well, they're 320 meters long,
Yeah.
80, so 20, 24, 50 meters wide or something or other. It's 11 meters to float and come in with 6 tugs. So
Yeah.
it's quite an evolution for QHM and his team, but we seem to do it quite regularly
Seen it a
now.
few
So
times myself.
good,
I've
good.
been
That's what
out
we'd like to
there.
hear.
Yeah, it's really good to sort. It's quite funny when I forget which time it was. It was we were out and we were on the eastern side of the channel when she was coming in. We
On
were there
this,
deliberately to see her come in, and
uh-huh.
there was two or three other boats there as well. And one of them got a little bit close to the channel and got chased off by the by the old bill. Nick,
By the
Nick, Nick, Nick,
police.
get
Yeah,
over.
yeah.
But
They
we
get a
were
bit
fine.
touchy if you're inside the exclusion zone.
Yeah,
But
but
yeah,
that was fun. Anyway,
That's
we've
good.
got a few other people that want to come in.
Cool.
So, if you're ready to come in, give us a thumbs up. Right, here we go then. Here's Stuart. So, hang on. Oh, need to get that out of the way. Let's.
Hi, Stuart.
Hello, Becky. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm fine. Yeah, yeah,
Got my overlay in the way.
yeah. I don't know if you can turn your volume up a little bit, Tim. I'm really struggling to hear you. I can hear Becky
All right.
fine.
I can only apologise for that.
Yeah,
How's that? Is that any better?
yeah, that's better.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just pushed it up
that's
on the
cool.
desk.
Yeah,
So, are you all right now? So you've had
yeah, I'm fine, thanks. I'm sort
bit
of
of COVID.
day 4 into COVID. I'll be
Oh,
doing my lateral flow test tomorrow and the day after, just to make sure that I'm clear. I'm feeling pretty much back to normal now. Just a little bit bunged up, but otherwise, it's horrible though, isn't it? I don't know if you've had it, Becky. Have you had COVID yet?
no, no,
Don't
not
get
yet.
it.
I'm just sat here
I'm not.
waiting.
I'm not recommending it. I tell you,
No, I don't-
it's horrible.
it's
It
a
really
matter of
is.
time, I'm sure.
There's one
Yeah,
positive that can come out of that is that if you do get the COVID, it gives you better immunity than having to go for a 4th jab, apparently.
All
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay.
That's good. That's a positive. Yeah,
So
yeah,
so take that one as read.
yeah, yeah. Cool.
And here's somebody else that's had COVID. You ready to come in, Mr. H? Give us a thumbs up if you're ready. Hang on. I'm not quite sure what he's doing. You ready, Steve? I've got a pair of Steves coming on. So
I
you
thought
give
it
us
was
a
a
thumbs up.
Harry.
Now Harry's going to join in shortly.
Oh, it's a
He's
different
just
one.
he's trying to sort his life out. So I've got yeah, I'll bring him in. I don't know what he's doing. Are you there, Steve? You can hear us now, Steve.
Oh, this is Steve.
Yeah,
There
Hello,
he is.
mate.
This Steve.
Yeah.
You can
How you
hear
doing,
us.
Steve?
all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Steve, you ready to come in as well? Steve Little, bring him in. He's in as well. There you go. How you doing, Steve? Can you hear us all right? I can't hear you, Steve. Steve? He's just looking at us now.
Yeah.
Here
There
he
he
is.
is.
How we doing?
Is he?
Oh, there he is. Can you hear us all right, Steve? Can we hear you? Yeah? You say something, Steve? We can't hear you.
I can hear you all right. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah,
No,
yeah.
yes, now. I think you're
Quite a
right.
slow internet connection. You must be on
Yeah.
on dial-up or something.
I've done away with the headphones. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're steam driven, I think.
Are you in a
Yeah, good.
submarine?
You're coming through really quiet, Tim. That's why I put the headphones in. But obviously,
All right, hang on.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can. I'm boosting my
I
level
can
up
hear
a
you
bit.
just about. I can hear Becky, but
Yeah.
All right. I don't know why because I've got a lot of
Yeah.
volume on here. Let's try a little bit more. Give it a little bit more of a boost. How's that? Is that any better? So some people can hear me fine, others
Yeah.
can't.
I can hear you.
Is that booming now? Am I booming out?
That's
so-
just about comfortable for me.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
booming out on the faders here anyway. I'm peaking up at yeah.
So, Steve Little, as you were in the Royal Navy, you must have had a nickname, because everybody seems to have nicknames in the Navy. So to save confusion between you and Steve Holliman, what was your nickname?
it was either Tiny or Stuart. So
That's
I
why-
was Stu Little or
That's why I
Tiny.
always call you
But we've already got
Stu.
Stuart on, so
Tiny or Stuart.
Well, Stuart's not going to work.
Tiny then.
Stuart's not going to work.
a few people used to call me Sid after Sid Little from Little and Large, but that didn't really stick because probably about 75% of people had never heard of them. So anyone
Yeah.
that I think was born after like the early 90s, like people calling me Sid, doing, "Oh, why are they doing that, mate?" I was like, "Well, the comedian," and they didn't have a clue what you were talking about. So
Well, at least they're broadcastable nicknames, not like some of them.
Yeah.
yeah,
So, well, we're talking about boats tonight and all things boating. So, unfortunately, I don't know whether you heard earlier, but I was going to have Jim Davidson on, of the old Nick, you know, old Chalky. Unfortunately, he's had to pull out, which was a great shame. And I had the two guys from Ship Happens, Gemma and Simon. Unfortunately, Simon's not feeling well, so they've had to drop out as well. Great shame, but they would add great content. But we're going to have to make do with us little lot tonight, I think. So, Steve was on boats, or Tiny was on boats. And if you know Tiny, how tall are you, Steve? You're about 6'7" or something, is it? He's got a really slow internet, hasn't he?
He's, I think he's laughing at my joke from earlier.
6'5.5".
6'5.5". Is that wet in high
6'5.5".
heels?
I think it's just because I've got the weight to carry behind it. It's 21 stone nearly.
Outrageous. And that's all good, well and good until you start
I think
banging
I've
your
got a
head on.
terrible internet connection.
Yeah, we can see that.
We'll hear
So-
that.
We can hear that, yeah. So we got Harry's just turned up. So
There are some photos of me when I was in the Canary Islands wearing such attire for Halloween. So
No.
too much information there. Just wait for Harry to settle down a bit. So we've got Harry to join in a second. You give us a
Just
shout when you're
delete
ready, Harry.
some-
Oh. Up.
I'm still here.
Yeah.
Just deleting
your
a
finger over
few
the
background things. Yeah, just deleting a few things. There we go.
You ready to come in, Harry? Give us a thumbs up if you can hear us.
Did you see my thumbs up, Tim?
No.
Ah,
Evening, Harry.
Good evening.
So if anybody don't know, this is Harry.
who let him
Yeah.
in?
Good evening, everybody.
All right.
So Harry and I go
Yes,
back
thank
quite
you.
a way.
Yeah. A number of years.
Quite a long way, yes. So more years than we care to remember, eh, Harry? He must be getting on for 50 now, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
Yes, it is
dear.
actually.
Yeah, 49.
Yes,
I think.
we were young pups.
Yes.
So we were young
Just a
pups
couple.
when I first met you.
Yeah. Oh, such a long time ago.
Yes.
So let's talk some sailing then. Let's talk sailing.
Mhm.
Sailing.
Well, I've got a topic, if you like. I've just had an email from U-Boat offering their flare amnesty, which is really handy because I've got flares going back God knows how long that I've taken off the boat, put in the garage to get rid of later, and then forgot about them. And yeah, so I'm thinking about changing my flares for a different type of flare. I'm thinking of getting one of these LED flares on the boat, a battery powered one, and obviously some I don't know what you call them, gunpowder ones or incendiary ones for longer range.
Yeah.
So I just wonder if anybody's got any advice on that, because it's great to get rid of them easy. I mean, it saves chucking them in the harbour, Um,
You should love that.
Or wait until
worse,
firework night to let them off.
or worse, let them off. Yeah, let them off over the harbour. Yeah.
Firework night's always a favourite, isn't it? To get rid of. And there's a top tip I can give there. When it's dark, don't let off the smoke ones.
Yeah. They make a
Yes.
right mess. They make a right mess.
Oh, they do. So, here we go.
I think you're very wise going for LED flares.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
you're future proofing yourself. But,
Yeah.
But you might need a couple of credit cards to pay for it all.
I don't know. I've got an electric flare that we
Yeah.
brought before we went down to the Med,
Mhm.
but how effective it is, I've got no idea. I've never had to use it, and that's the whole
Yeah,
problem with flares, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was
I'd
going to say
always
that's
test it.
I don't know.
You've got the electric one. If someone's looking for you from above,
Yes.
or if you're like boat to boat, they could probably see the flash like they would a torch. But if you're in the middle of the ocean and you're miles from anything, you used to rely on obviously the red, like up in the sky skyrocket flare. And,
Yeah, you need some shemalis, and you need smoke as well, I think.
But
Yeah.
what I've seen
Especially in the
recently
summer.
is a little cartridge like this, and it had almost like bullets in it, and
Yes.
a little launcher. So instead of carrying like a sort of 12-inch, 8-inch, or 6-inch long flare that you had to strike and hold out to launch, you had this little handheld plastic gun. You put the cartridge in like an old cap gun, pointed it away from you up in the sky, and hit the trigger. And apparently that works just as well as a large one. And
Yes.
for a fraction of the cost, and you get about 20 capsules in this magazine essentially.
Yeah.
They used
And
to-
do they expire?
they used- Are you ready to come in, Alistair?
Whether or not that's as bright as a bigger
Yeah.
one, is,
Yeah.
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 I don't know.
Yeah,
Just-
and that actually
just
reminds me,
gonna bring Alistair in.
I've got 2 sets on the boat somewhere, and they must be way out of date, so I need to get them down to
Caught
you
you eating
though.
crisps,
Yeah.
Alistair.
Hey, oh.
Oh, bloody hell, Alistair.
When I got my old boat, it was an eBay bought project in 2011.
Oh, it's gone quiet.
Okay.
Oh, you've gone quiet. 2011 we got. Are you all right, Alistair? Can you hear us all? Hang on, something's gone
We're
wrong
done.
here. Who's got a dodgy connection?
Oh, hello there.
Me?
How you doing? How you
I
doing,
can hear you
Alistair?
now.
So
Yeah,
I
but
see
you
you
get
stuffing crisps.
Evening, everyone.
Good evening.
For those that don't know, Alistair is Stuart's brother. They don't look
Oh, right.
anything alike.
I don't
I've
look
got
like
my
my
glasses
brother,
on.
strangely enough.
Sadly, I look like my brothers.
I've got to get my glasses. You'll see the resemblance.
Oh, look. There you go. Now we can't see us.
Yeah, the
They're not
difference is
glasses, binoculars.
he's still got sunlight down there in Cornwall. We haven't got sunlight up here in Hillhead.
Complete
Where's it
daylight.
gone?
We've got some here.
It's darkening. The sun's
Yeah.
starting to go down.
Yeah.
Just look outside. So, Alistair, what's the Helford River like at the moment? Have they started putting boats out on the trots?
There's 1 or 2 gone out, but in theory, no one's allowed out there until the 1st of April. Something to do with insurance. So, yeah, we're not going out there till the 9th of April.
All right. Where are you at the moment? Up on the hard? Or
Yeah, we're
alongside
in
someone?
the. Have you heard of a make a boat called Rustler?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're in their yard up in Falmouth.
So what, you're parked up to a Rustler 42, are you?
Well, something like that, yeah.
That's
Feel
their
like the
flagship.
poor relation going up there.
Oh, hang on. I've got a call coming in. This will be interesting
Still
to see
happening.
if this works. Oh,
Alistair, you missed the highlights
hello.
earlier on the introduction because we were supposed to have been joined
Right,
tonight
you're
by
about to
Jim
join the live
Davidson,
stream.
Oh yeah.
but he had to pull out at the last minute.
Was he
Yeah.
actually going to come?
I think he, okay?
Was he
Yeah,
actually going
he's,
to come?
he's a motorboater. I think he keeps his boat over in Littlehampton or something like that, isn't it? Or is it Chichester? I can't remember.
I think it's Paul Stewart.
Pool, is it?
Yeah, I think it's in Paul.
30th of November,
Okay.
17.
Yeah, I've seen him doing a guided tour on
realise
it.
you're on a live
It's quite
stream.
an old one, isn't it? He's got an old 20-year-old one, which he's renovated himself, I think.
Say hello to Harry.
Yeah.
Renovated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Barry.
P0130.
Yeah, we were just talking about flares and getting one of these LED handheld flares that Steve's got. Steve, we could test yours if you could bring it over. We could see how effective it is. Because I mean, it's no harm in just shining that across a park or something, is there? Or even down on the beach or something, just to.
Hampshire police won't be very impressed.
I'll
Trying
call
to
you back
ship.
when I'm finished. Be just after 9 o'clock.
What was that, Becky? I didn't catch that.
Hampshire, if you shine them at a ship, you'll get reported to the police. They've stopped about
Oh,
4
did
or
it?
5 people this year.
Right.
So
So
if you're
keep
going
it
to shine them
inland.
at something, keep it
Yeah.
inland and check it that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
It keeps everybody happy.
Yeah, because I suppose you need to test these things every year, don't you, to make sure they still work. Otherwise,
Yeah,
when you're
you
going
do.
to use it, if the batteries are gone or something, you're going to be in trouble.
They're only double A's.
Yeah, I think you'd know about it. But
Yeah.
I just had a look at some prices.
Yeah.
I bought a new set last year and it bought me 6. It was a couple of rockets, a couple of pinpoints, and a couple of smokes.
Yeah, I think in the Solent you probably need smoke because there's so many boats that even a pinpoint from an LED flare is very small compared to if you've got smoke going off, they're going to see you really quite quickly.
Sorry, say again. Were you saying something, Steve?
Yeah, I just think if especially in the Solent, I think a smoke for daytime use at least is going to be the best thing. Because trying to spot a pinpoint flare in the Solent, I can imagine it's going to be quite hard.
Yeah.
Smoke gives you a bigger signature.
Interestingly, has your boat got AIS transmit?
Yes, we have.
Yeah, so
it's probably but to be fair, it probably makes it a lot easier as well.
Well, this is it. If the Coast Guard, if you put a Mayday or a Pan out, and your VHF is still transmitting your AIS footprint, they'll find you that way rather than with a handheld flare.
Yeah,
fair enough if you're across Biscay or something, but you only have to look at marine traffic. And the thing is with AIS, it's lily pads. So if you're out of range from the land, but you're in the range of a ship, you'll get picked up by the ship and go on his lily pad effect.
Yeah.
So it's I think it's horses for courses. I think there's a time and a place for it all. I don't have the bank balance to warrant 6 LEDs, unfortunately. So unfortunately, I took my flares back to Somerset as well, so I haven't got them here to hand in. That's the end of that. But I think you both doing the right thing. Say again?
There's not much good in Somerset.
All relative. It's all relative. Yeah, so they're dead now anyway, so they're out of date. So I put them in the back of the car and then I have to bring them back next time I go back and hand them in. But no doubt there'll be a contribution to some charities with U-boats activity at the weekend, I'd have thought. I
think that's what they're planning, isn't it?
Yeah, that's normally what happens. There was one in Chichester and Cows did one last year. This is interesting. They did one on the river, and they put them on the multicat, one of their little workboats with a crane on, and they had flares going back to the 1960s.
Mm.
And they couldn't put these flares on the ferry, funny old thing, because it's hazardous cargo in that volume, and they had to drive it all the way up to Saxon Wharf, up to Ocean Safety, and deal with it up there. So I'm not quite sure what happens to them afterwards, but they got them to the mainland, which was the important thing, so they could be disposed of in a safe manner.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, we
Here's
had
a
to get rid of
question.
all of ours when we brought the boat back from Spain last year.
Yeah.
And the yard where we lifted the boat out, they just took them and got rid of them for us, which was quite good.
Mm.
We had a carrier bag full because we had the old ones as well as the new ones that we bought before we went down.
Mm.
So when I got my first job, the flares on it expired in 1999. I bought it in about 2010.
Mm.
Took the flares out of they were stored in a locker that was in a wet area as well, so they were quite damp. And luckily, none of them were like water activated ones like the smokes. They were all canisters. And I took them what used to be the Fairham Marine Superstore down near Trafalgar Yachts, just round the corner. It's not anymore a chandlery, but it used to be. The two brothers that own Portsmouth Moorings, Luke and James. I took them in, and they took them out the canister, and they pulled the first one out to check the date, and the top of the flare came off, and all the powder and the bottom half of the flare remained in the pot, and I caused the entire shop to be evacuated. And they had it's not bomb squad, but like the police equivalent come in and get rid of this, because when the guy went to pull it out the tube, it had sort of welded itself to the bottom of the plastic container, and it just exposed all of the is it phosphorus or phosphor?
Yeah.
And he wasn't allowed to dispose of them, so that
Yeah.
could happen as well. But that was
I bet they put the cigarettes out quickly.
Like an ice cream tub.
I bet they put the cigarettes out quickly when that happened, didn't they, Steve?
It was one of them moments where I was. It wasn't my fault, but the guy on the shop says, "Why did you have to do that today of all days?"
It was a good idea at the time.
Well, he's the one that said if I bought new flares, I could take the old ones in and exchange them there and then. So I went to replace the flares, and it was him who chose to peel them out of the. If you imagine an ice cream tub, someone had tipped one of them on its side and cut the top down, and had like 2 screws on the inside of the lid on the inside of this locker, so you could undo it and get access to the lot. But it was completely open topped, and the boat had sat on a swing mooring in Fareham Lakes for about 10 years before I bought it. So 10 years worth of condensation and leaks made their way into the pack.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's a question, Becky. Would you? What would your advice be if I've got some flares and they've just gone out of date? I've never let a flare off, right? So if ever I have to do, God forbid I ever have to let one off, but supposing I do, wouldn't it be a good idea if I had, tried one out? So would you recommend, say, a handheld, letting it off in your back garden, just a flare, not a rocket or anything like that?
Yeah, you want to take safety measures like having a bucket of water, pair of welder's gloves, and a pair of safety goggles is probably a good place to start. And when you let it off, if this is, I don't know if you see that, I've got a pencil there.
Yeah.
I'm got a bit bigger, but that's a pencil. Maybe a white pencil would be better. Is that better? Oop, no, this way. So you want to hold it at 45 degrees, so all the molten tube can drip. You hold it like that, you burn your hands. And I suggest you phone the Coast Guard first to let them know what you're doing.
Yeah, this is it. You see, if you didn't have that advice and tried that before, the first time you have to do it in a panic situation, you wouldn't know about that, would you?
Yeah, the RYA do the heavy weather sailing or the offshore sailing, and a lot of schools let off flares of a similar nature in a controlled environment like that. But the important thing is to tell the Coast Guard what you're up to. Somebody will pick up on it. It's the way of the world.
We've done it with the RNLI, which was an event organised by Westerly Owners Association. And it actually might be worth trying to actually talk to. If you see Brian, talk to Brian, see if they can do it. Because it's worthwhile. Because actually, when I did my day skipper course while I was not on the day skipper, I was taking my day skipper theory, and I had a week out to do my comp crew because I'd never been on a yacht before. And when I got back to my theory lesson, the instructor gave me a flare and said, "Let it off." And I didn't know. And the whole thing about flares, you buy flares, but how many people actually look at them and actually understand how to let it off? Until you get into a panic, and then you've got to think about it a lot and read, which is probably not a good idea. So actually having a practice and doing it is a good idea.
Well,
when
I
you
did
buy
it
a
as
new
part of
set,
the course.
when you
Yeah,
buy a
the
new
ASA
set, check how they work.
Yeah. So I did it as part of a course with the ASA. No, it wasn't a course. I think we were on an AGM out at Thorney Island, and they arranged for us all to go down and pop a few flares and stuff like that. And you'd be surprised the heat that's generated out of a handheld.
Yeah. Because what we had, Lynn actually had a misfire. She had one, just didn't go off.
That's probably one of Steve's
from his
ice
for
cream.
that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it might be out of date old ones.
Yeah, it could have been.
Some of them work well, and some of them don't. Even new ones, you can have a dodgy one.
Yeah.
I mean, in the military, we get those shamulis, which are the flares that you pop, and they send them up in the sky, and they come down on a parachute.
The white ones.
We get all different colours, white and red, with the army when you're on exercise, and you also get the little handheld ones that fire out the little caps that Steve was on about earlier. It's like a little metal tube, and it's got a lever on it. You pull down and you flick, and it's on a spring. You screw one of these in the top, just pull down and set it off, and it gives your hand a bit of a bite. So best to wear a pair of gloves when you're firing these things. And they come in different colours as well, but they come on a strip of about 10 doobies on a thingamabob. And that's,
I think at the end of the day, if it's part of your life-saving kit, familiarity is not a bad thing. But go to a boat show. They're quite often at boat shows, and they'll have dummies there that you can familiarise yourself with, because patterns change, and your new set might be different to your last set, etc., etc. And just handle with care, and put as I've mentioned, a set of welder's gloves in your flare box and a set of safety specs. And if you are going to let them off, you might have seen them at the end of the Vendée Globe when they all came in. Everybody had a bucket of water on the deck, so it's no bad thing.
Yeah. Becky, have you ever let one off in anger yourself?
No.
No.
No. Nor have I sent a mayday, nor have I sent a pan intentionally, anyway.
Right. I was just thinking, you've probably got the most sea miles under your belt, whether you've actually had to do it.
No, I think it's interesting you say that, because a few years ago there was the whole saga about scaling back the size of the Coast Guard, and there was a lot of bitching in the Solent about how Leon Solent was being shut down, and how could people do their jobs not looking at the sea and all this sort of stuff. And I remember having a conversation with my father about it, who's 80 now, and he was like quite anti it. I said, well, hold on a minute, Father, because things have changed. You know, the use of AIS, who'd have thought 10 years ago the amount of small boats have AIS, the use of digital selective calling when we send a mayday, or just talking to each other. You know, Channel 16 now is so quiet compared to 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. And then EPIRBs, most boats, I haven't got an EPIRB, but a lot of boats have got an EPIRB, AIS, personal AISs, so I've got one of those on my life jacket. I think search and rescue has come on a huge amount, so don't get me wrong, there is a need for eyes along the coast, and the National Coast Watch Institution do a very good job of that. But I think I think awareness has improved somewhat, and it will continue to improve. As Portsmouth, we've got 22 cameras in the harbour, or the harbour entrance. I was in the office this afternoon, looking at an incident. We had a complaint about a rib, and I was able to piece it together where this rib had come from. Okay, fair enough. It was Monday morning at 8:30, and I probably wouldn't have been able to do that a Saturday in the summer. But there's a lot of information held out there all the time,
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to know, especially when you when you're up to no good.
Yeah. Can I make a public apology, Becky? When I went out last weekend in that bloody Force 5 gusting 6, that I wasn't in the small boat channel. There's no way I was going to stay in there with it easterly blowing me onto Blockhouse. I had to be a bit further out than I would normally. But we were the only ones there. There was no one coming in.
Did you leave 4 bar to port?
Yes.
Deathly silence. In and outbound, so that's all right. You
Yeah.
won't be the first, you won't be the last. But help me out when you can. Please leave ballast and 4 bar to port. I just, so frustrating in the summer. You just see people just not caring, and then they're all like, "Oh, the guy's going the wrong way, and he's going too fast." So, you're in the wrong place. So, yeah.
Yeah, get that ferry out my way.
Oh. What do you mean the channel's closed? There's an aircraft carrier coming in. I've got to go and get the kids for the school run. Sorry, mate, you're going to be late. We've heard all the excuses, but she's top dog and the channel's closed. Yeah.
So, what are we going to talk about next?
I don't know, Tim. You've got the script.
You brought your flares then.
I'll wing it. So, MV Salamanca.
Oh, yeah.
Seen that coming in. I saw something on that the other day. And that is it a hybrid or is it electric?
Gas.
It's got
Gas.
Gas.
So it's a new one, isn't it? That's sort of a brand new one. And there was something on refueling it, and they can't do it here at the moment. Oh, that's right.
There's no you had a talk from Ben McGuinness, the International Port Harbour Master. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, that's where I got the information from. So they're looking at ways that they're going to be able to refuel these things. But at the moment, they're going to be done down in Spain, I think, is it? Where they're coming from?
Right, yeah. Portsmouth is trying to get a recognition to be a natural gas refill port. I don't know what you call it.
Subject, then.
Go on.
Go on, Steve.
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously, we spoke about flares moving towards electric. One of the last articles about.
You dropped out again.
So, what about propulsion moving to electric? Obviously, dinghies have had small outboards that are basically a fan with a small battery pack. But in last month's Practical Boat Owner, there's people that are now kitting their entire boats out essentially with, I think it's Vitus that do it. They're replacing the diesel engine for an electric motor with a through-hull shaft and prop, and where the fuel tank would go is getting a bank of 3 or 4 lithium-ion batteries. You're running at 48 volts or 24 volts of propulsion for the yacht on batteries, so it's quieter, more initial torque, zero pollution, noise or actual emissions and stuff. But whereas on a tank of diesel or a tank of petrol, if you're running an outboard, you might get, I don't know, £30 worth of fuel pre what's happening now. Used to get me probably about the length of the Solent, maybe down to Yarmouth and back twice on fuel if I needed it. Whereas they reckon that the electric batteries at 5 knots will drive Cherie, my boat, at around about 50 to 80 miles before all battery banks are depleted. But at all times while you're in the water, even in neutral, the props spin. So if you're safe, you're actually recharging the batteries. So what's everyone's thoughts on that? Apparently this is the future now because of Marpol and everything. We've no longer got the risk of spilling fuel or carrying fuel. So there's no fumes, no explosion risks, no noise, no pollution.
I think it's a great idea.
It's closer.
If you can get the range out of it, I think Mm.
The only downside that I can see with these lithium batteries is that I don't know if you've seen recently on social media, but there's been quite a few cars, all electric cars, that have had dramas with their batteries, and they've gone up in smoke. And
We've
in
also
fact, there was a boat in the boatyard the other day that went up, and I don't know
Hornet?
the full details.
Roger's boat.
In Hornet, yeah. We don't know whether that was lithium batteries in the.
I'm
waiting.
I'm waiting to hear a report on that, but it does sound like it was a lithium battery for his bell thruster.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's what I understand. I've not seen a report, so I can't quote it.
That's where the fire started, I think.
Yeah.
But did you read about the Felicity Ace, which is a big roll-on, roll-off car carrier?
No.
She was taking a load of, for argument's sake, prestige cars like Teslas or BMWs or Porsches from Europe to the States. And I think she picked a load of cargo off Portugal, started going across the Atlantic and caught fire. And the crew couldn't put it out. So she eventually had all her crew evacuated by the Portuguese Navy, I assume. And then about 2 days later, the salvage team got on board, and the fire was so rampant, and a lot of it was blamed on the batteries in these cars. And eventually, they had to give up and walk away, and the ship sank. No pollution at the moment, but it's just like leaves me slightly nervous.
Yeah. I mean, lots of people are now going over to these lead lithium batteries as the house banks.
Yeah, I'd like to.
There has been lots of warnings over the years, and Stuart and Alistair, you must have seen this as well, with lithium batteries in computers.
Yeah.
You know, and even on the air, when you're flying, the cabin crew will say, if your battery's starting to feel warm, let us know straight away. It does
Well, there was those incidents when people's mobile phones were catching fire, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was reading in this this article about that there's lithium ion and then there's lithium. I might be wrong. It's lithium carbonate or something. It's two different chemical compounds, and the more modern batteries are not the same as the ones that we maybe had 10 years ago. They're still lithium based, but they're not quite as dangerous, but they're still not as safe as a traditional sort of 9-volt lead acid.
But going back to your question, I think this electrifying yachts is a great way to go. And there was there's a firm down in Cornwall who convert cars. They'll take any car you've got, just a road car, and convert it to electric. And they basically strip the old engine out, and they replace it with a Tesla electric motor and a Tesla battery pack. And all of a sudden, that Volkswagen Beetle is now an electric Volkswagen Beetle, and they'll do it to any car. Yeah,
really?
And you kind of think,
wow,
somebody's bound to pop up and do that with boats. I think that will be their sort of, their USP, if you like, convert boats to electric.
Steve, the point about re-engineering a boat, I was talking to my colleague about it, and he's quite keen to get a boat, and he was like, oh, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, you don't want an old engine. And he said, no, just rip it out and put an electric one in. And I thought, yeah, that's the way to go. That's the way to go.
Yeah.
So, fair play to him. Or Firefly, so he doesn't have any engine.
For long distance cruising, it could be a game changer, because the problem with our diesel engines is that we only carry 200 or 300 litres of diesel. And if you're doing long distance cruising, you could run out, or you have to sort of conserve it, obviously. But if you've got electric and you've got solar panels, of course, you can just keep generating the electricity and keeping yourself a full tank wherever you are.
Yeah.
Which you imagine you're sort of, 1,000 miles offshore or something or other, and you want to go put the motor on to get away from a storm or something or other. You've got a full tank of diesel to do it, or a full tank of electric, actually. And then when you've used it all, you then start charging up again. And, you can't refill your diesel tank halfway across the Atlantic, can you?
Yeah.
So, that's quite a nice thing to have.
That working down in the Med, or when you're going further south, I think it might be a struggle if you cross it over to France or in Solent. Unfortunately.
What? Because you don't get the sunshine.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you got wind as well, don't you? Yeah, you could put a wind generator on. They generate even more.
And the propeller, as Steve said, when you're not using it, the propeller's still going round, and it could generate some electricity.
Yeah, but everything I ever learned in physics is you would never replace with a motor the same you used.
Yeah.
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 It depends on your
But at
sailing,
least you
really,
could-
doesn't it? Depends on your sailing and what you're hoping to run from your batteries at the end of the day. I've got a pilot
the article
and
that I read that had the. Sorry, Becky.
No, so I've got a, I don't know, my solar cell's probably 3/4 of a meter by 1/2 a meter, and it's fantastic. On a sunny day, it'll run the fridge and the pilot all day. It's pretty cool, really.
Yeah, but we've got a beer fridge and we've got a fridge.
Of course you have.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's the most important thing to keep going, isn't it? That fridge.
It is.
Well, we had solar on Talavera, and we went all right through the summer, right around the country. We didn't plug in anywhere for the whole summer.
Wow, well done, Tim.
It was a combination of obviously the motor was on when we were sort of moving around, but most of the time we managed to survive just on the solar, which was really good.
The article that I read that had this in it said that if you were travelling at 5 knots, based on the weight of my boat, that was the range. But if you came down just 1 knot to 4 knots, I mean, what's that? An extra 15 minutes on your journey, you gained something like 35% extra range. So for the sake of 1 knot, instead of the 50 to 85 mile range at 4 knots, the boat would get, I think it was like 120 to 140. If you came down to between 2.5 and 3 knots, which if you're only using this to get in and out of the harbour is not unrealistic if you're going with the tides, depending on where you are. And your range was extended up to almost like 160 miles, which means I could, in theory, go to France and back on one charge.
Yeah.
Very slowly.
Yeah.
You'd have to get your pilotage right, or your passage plan right.
Tides,
You get your tides right, because you'd go across about 3 or 4 different tides to get there. So time you weave backwards and forwards.
And don't forget, the French electric won't be the same as well.
Yeah.
It's twice the price.
That's the point.
Will
the French let you have electric?
Yeah. Did they mention anything about the weight difference, Steve? Do you actually put more weight on an electric boat or take weight off? Because you're going to lose your diesel tank, aren't you?
It varies based on a full diesel tank. The yacht that they were using in the article was a Contessa 32 that they took the old engine out and the fuel tanks out, and he incorporated the batteries that he was using as his house bank as well, and he didn't need the motor starting battery anymore, so everything was run off the one bank of batteries. And even with 4 batteries instead of 2 and the whole of the generation unit, he used his pre-existing like through hole for where the prop would go, so he wasn't actually filling in and putting new holes. And the boat was something like 30 or 40 kilos lighter than a full tank of diesel with the batteries. The only downside is obviously as the diesel would go down, you get that slight boost in efficiency as you become lighter. And they said that doesn't happen because obviously the weight remains constant. But the other thing he said they could factor in is that if you wanted this on a boat that was designed for more efficient sailing when you get the stern out the water, you could mount your motor where it is, but mount your batteries almost above your keel if you had the capacity. So you didn't have to have the weight of the fuel tank where the previous fuel tank was. He said, so there is a bit of guesswork involved in where are we going to put the weight of 4 batteries. But yeah, it seems from everything that I read on the article to actually be like, the guy said he would never ever own a boat again that doesn't have the electric propulsion. But he's one of these people that he doesn't race and he doesn't set himself deadlines from A to B. And he said you do have to factor this in. If you go, I'm going from, I don't know, just take Pompey to Cowes, and you go, I'm leaving Portsmouth Harbour, I'm going to be in Cowes in 2 hours maximum. You go out there, you're out sailing. This is the kind of guy that goes, oh, if that journey takes me 6 hours because there's absolutely zero wind and I'm drifting with like next to nothing in my sails, he does not use his engine once he's out unless it's an emergency situation. He say practically uses the sails at 90-95% of the time. So most people that go out and go, oh, the pub shuts in 2 hours, I'm going to go, would probably not have the same results. But if that's technology now, if you look 10 years ago, an electric car had a range of 50 miles, and now we've got like the Tesla Roadster will do 500 miles on one charge. So there's potential in 10 more years that boats will essentially have the same capacity as a full tank of diesel with technology getting smaller and lighter. But I don't know. It's only because my outboard's on its last legs, and I was considering the cost of replacing it, which is approximately £2,500 for the engine that I'd won, and that's going brand new. But it's only £4,000 to get it made into an inboard instead of an outboard with all this kit. So that was where my thought process came from on reading up on it. And that was the costs based on like August 2021. So things obviously may or may not be more expensive right now, but hopefully moving in the right direction.
My mate who does my electrics, he says the thing is with lithium, you've just got to make sure you have the right alternator. He says that's what's happening. A lot of people are putting lithium batteries in, but not necessarily changing the alternator, and then they're cooking the batteries, and it's a whole world of pain. And he said to me, just wait another 3 years, because I changed my batteries about 18 months ago, or I ordered them about 18 months ago, because I've only got 2 little tippers. They were gone. And I said, oh, is it time to go lithium? And he said, no, the next time you come to do it, 3 to 4 years time, that's when the technology will be there. You'll get so much more value for money, and they'll be so much smaller as well. So his point was just hold on for a couple of years. So it was quite interesting.
That's a shame for Pete, because Pete's just replaced all of it, doesn't he? He's just bought 3 200 ampere hour lithiums at a cost of about £1,000 each.
Yeah, he has, but it took him a long time to get that up with the charging as well.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it?
Yeah.
I do feel for the people at the moment that are driving electric cars. They made that decision right, didn't they? Looking at the way road fuel's gone up in the last month or so. Will it come back down? I don't think so. If the demand is there, they're not going to drop the prices, are they?
Well, I don't know if you noticed, but after the budget, he said we're taking 5p a litre off the tax on fuel as of now at 6 o'clock that night, and all the garages around here put it at 5p.
Yeah,
I think
probably got it wrong.
It's gone up by 50p in the last couple of weeks anyway, so 5p is nothing.
Yeah, well, it's gone up 20p here. Oh, it's an absolute scandal. 30p. Diesel's gone up 30p. It was 150, it's 180.
Well, it was over £2 a litre in London this week.
£2?
I wasn't. £2 a litre in London.
It was 195 down near me. 195 at the Texaco garage down the road.
Yeah.
Well, if they can sell it at that, why would you drop your price? You wouldn't, would you?
Well,
you'd just keep going.
There's 2 Texaco garages, and they're about half a mile apart. One was 195, and one was 163. And so there was a big hoo-ha on Facebook. Everyone said, right, everyone boycott the 195. And lo and behold, he's had to drop his prices.
Well, that's work then, isn't it? That's good.
Yeah.
You changed your background photo, Tim.
Oh, no, the weather's changed. Do you like it?
And you got your old boat back.
This is up in Scotland somewhere. The other year when we were going round. I thought just keep people on their toes.
Are we going to see the ship's cat?
Oh, can put the ship's cat somewhere. Yeah, hang on. Just give you the ship's cat.
Oh, he's lovely.
Alistair, where's the ship's dog? Alistair's just got a ship's dog.
There he is. What's the ship's dog then?
I'll see if I can find her. Hang on.
Oh dear. Oh.
Yeah, he's looking over my shoulder.
Oh, there he is. Yeah, there he is. Little legs.
We got.
Is he missing his sailing, Tim?
He is actually. You can tell he is missing it. He sort of wanders around only howling at night. So why not on the boat? And we've got our son's cat here at the moment as well. So we've got 2 cats in the house. So
Yeah.
they're a couple of funny buggers. So, somebody just disappeared.
You have to bring him out on our boat for a sail.
Yeah, absolutely.
As long as he's boat trained.
He's boat trained. We'll bring his own heads. So, hang on. It's just gone. There we go. Have we found it? Oh, there's the ship's dog.
There's the ship's dog.
It's his new ship's dog.
Yeah. So, don't know where Becky disappeared to. She dropped off.
It's a rescue dog from the RSPCA.
Ah. So you had him long?
3 weeks.
3 weeks?
Yeah.
Well, you've not had it on the boat yet then?
Not on our boat. Took him out on a friend's boat, and it was blowing about 4 8, and
Lovely.
it was clattering, and not. We just took it up to get it on a mooring. We just down at Mylor, on a mooring at Mylor. We took it in from the mooring into the marina, so it was about 200 or 300 meters. That's all. And we went out there on the taxi. She was fine going out in the taxi, but she was a bit nervous coming back with the boat bouncing around all over the place and noise and clattering and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Hope I haven't put her off, that's all.
But she's fine, was she?
No, she was a bit nervous, to be honest.
All
With
right.
a tail between her legs and looking a bit miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was
And how was the
like?
dog?
So, I could see the wife wasn't happy about it.
Did any of you ever see Martin's old J boat when he had the dog Jack going out with him? He actually put false turf in the cockpit at the rear end, so the dog had a patch of grass, so that when he was out sailing, he trained the dog to essentially do its business on this patch of false turf, so that he didn't have to worry about what happened when the dog needed to go for a wee or whatever when he was out sailing. I thought that was genius.
No, I'm planning on doing that. I'm planning on doing the same thing. I'm going to put the turf in a gardening tray as well, and then you every now and then you can tie the turf onto a piece of rope and hang it over the side and wash it off like a tow rag, like in the old days.
So dogs
and
aren't like cats. So a cat was quite happy to go in a litter tray, but I think you have to start dogs off fairly early to get them to do it. They will eventually, but it can restrict your sailing a lot, where a dog won't go. So you have to stop every few hours for the dog to do its business. So I've got friends that take their dog on a boat, and they have to plan it, so they go in every sort of about 8 hours to take the dog off the boat, which is a shame because the dog will just hang on and hang on and hang on, which isn't good for them. But with a ship's cat, he's happy to have his own heads.
Yeah.
So
I've had a day of crashing phones in meetings and Teams and everything else, so it just sums it up, really. It wouldn't let me do this on my laptop, so I had to do it on my phone, and now I'm on my iPad. But yeah, I haven't got my headphones because my headphones won't talk to it. It's all far too much technology for me.
Yeah. So somebody's mic's playing up, and I can't. I think it's Steve's.
Well, Steve's on mute, apparently.
No,
Yeah, I'm
the
on
other
mute.
Steve.
It started as soon as Becky came back on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think it's Steve
That's
Little's.
gone. Back
Yeah.
again.
Back.
Yeah, I think it's yours, Steve.
Yeah,
Which
I'm getting
one?
a lot of crackling this end whenever anyone's speaking.
Yeah,
Seems to go away
think
when I'm
that's-
talking my end, but then as soon as somebody else is talking, I'm doing this through my phone, and the speakers have got an awful feedback crackle. It's like listening to an LP.
Yeah. I'm just going to put you on mute for a minute and see if it goes away. So that's yeah, it's definitely Steve's. Can you still hear us? Nod if you can hear us, Steve.
Which Steve?
Yeah, Steve Little.
Tiny.
So yeah, tiny. So
I can as well.
yeah. So it is your speakers on your phone, Steve. So I can control all this from here. You see.
So I'll drop off and try and come back on and see if that makes a difference. I'm in the digs that I've got up in Bedford this week, and the Wi-Fi is shared between 7 working people in the same house. And at this time of night, I'm assuming that people are abusing it, so
They're
that
all
might
at
be
it,
why
aren't
it's not going too great. I'll try and cut off and come back
Okay.
on and see
All right.
if it allows me to.
Yeah.
So did we see Alistair's dog, or did the dog not make?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
We did. You missed it.
What sort of dog is it?
It's a cross between a foxhound and we don't know what. Possibly a lurcher.
All right, so it's quite
Pedigree
hairy.
lurcher.
Yeah, quite sort of fluffy. Well, sort of rough haired. Yeah.
Tim knows I'm a border collie nut. He had a border collie in the summer that took an instant shine to me when I came round to see them one night.
We're getting him back in a couple of weeks or a week's time.
You're having him back, are you?
Yeah, we got him for a couple of weeks over Easter period.
Oh,
they're going off to
Gimbal.
Germany.
Was it Gimbal?
Yeah, Gimbal. So
yeah.
we're having him for a couple of weeks. So we'll have 2 cats and a dog in the house. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, we had one down at the weekend. Our grand dog. She's a collie.
Oh.
Collie.
I saw Martin in the club the other day, Martin Pound, without Jack. And I said, "Where's Jack?" And he said, "Jack's in a huff." Because Jack has worked out that when he wears particular clothes, he's going to do varnishing. And Jack doesn't like varnishing because Jack gets tied up in the yard and then he howls. So Jack, when Martin takes out Jack in the morning, he's fine and he has his little run down Stokes Bay or whatever it is. And he goes back in and then he gets ready to go to the boat to go and do stuff and puts his overalls. And Jack just turns his back and goes back to his bed. So I was like, I was saying to Steve the other day, I saw him like, "Oh, bring him back, I'll look after him at lunchtime. It's not a problem. I'll take him for a run and play with him and everything." And he didn't reappear, so that was a bit. So yeah, hey ho.
He gets the knock, does he? Dog
How
gets
can everyone hear me now? Is that crackle gone?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
That sounds a little bit better.
Perfect.
Have you just been and smacked a few of your neighbours or something, Tiny?
No, I unplugged the router and moved it a little bit closer to where I am.
Yeah.
That does help.
Bandwidth is at work. It's just a nightmare. We can't do anything on Teams with cameras on. We just turn them all off because it's just the MOD just hasn't got enough bandwidth to support it. So some people are quite pleased. I think now. I think there's an element of put your photo up, have your profile pic or whatever it is, but actually streaming during a meeting, everybody's got a bit bored of. I think because various people play Candy Crush or continue to multitask with other efforts. They just prefer to put your profile pic up and then the problem goes away. But it's the new normal, I think, Teams and doing so much online. It's certainly certainly made a difference to our operation, that is for sure. And travel, and we'd be much more efficient to be able to keep it going. But it's,
So
it is what it is.
this platform that we're using here, StreamYard, it's really, really good. I'm doing all of my interviews now from a podcast on this platform, and I'm doing it as YouTube videos and podcasts. So it gives. I've signed up for. I'm on a professional with it, and what it gives me the opportunity to do is download two separate tracks for the audio, and the video down as well. That's already got its audio track on, and then I can take it into Adobe Audition and Adobe Premiere Pro to do the edit on it, and then I can upload it onto YouTube and onto Buzzsprout that puts it on all the different podcast platforms.
Well done. You've done so much about that. I mean, it's way out of my depth. I don't understand it at all. But
I've just recorded the 71st person.
Oh wow! Who was that? Anybody we know?
I've got a guy called Chris Thurl. I did one the other morning with him, and I got
Chris
2 episodes. Chris Thurl. He's an ex-bootnik.
All right.
That's got a YouTube channel, and he's been through the mill a bit. When he left the Marines, he went to Hong Kong and got into crystal meth, and he got into psychosis and all sorts of stuff, and he's managed to sort of bring himself back out of it and turn his life around, and he's doing all right now.
That's good. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Have you got Ben McGuinness on your list? Who's the guy that gave the talk at the club?
I've got his card here. So yeah, I'm gonna contact him and to get his story.
Yeah, he'll have a story.
Yeah, Becky, he was telling us he was chasing off boats, trying to bring Russian boats into Portsmouth the other week.
Oh, why let truth get in the way of a good story? there was about how long has this been? About 3 weeks ago. They got Harbour Control got wind of a vessel due to go into Portsmouth with a Russian interest. I can't remember the whole story.
It came from Poole, didn't it? So I saw it on the news. On the Poole, they tried to get into Poole. Poole turned them away. So they came to Portsmouth.
Then it tried for Portsmouth, and my colleagues in Harbour Control phoned up or said no, basically. So then they tried Southampton, who said no, and then they tried Littlehampton, who said no. So we don't know what happened to it. But what Ben was saying the other day was quite interesting, that it's more twisted in with COVID. What they're finding is some owners of merchant shipping are not letting their crews off the ship because they're worried about them picking up COVID. So these guys have been on board for ages and ages and ages, and they can't get off. And it's a really difficult situation because they're breaking the contract and the labour convention, and they just don't know which way to go with it. So it was like, where does this go next? And it was like, yeah, that's a good point. Where does it go next? Yeah. So it was. There's all sorts of things which are coming out of this pandemic, which are. I haven't had COVID yet, and I'm just sat here waiting to get it. I just every day I'm there with the squirty stuff and thinking, it's going to come, but I haven't had it. So,
I shouldn't worry about it too much.
I'm not too much worried about it. I think I'm just thinking how it'll impact my life, because I wouldn't be able to go to the office because we've made a pact. If anybody tests positive, they don't come in, which is not unreasonable because there's a load of us which haven't had it. And then I couldn't go to my boat because I wouldn't feel happy taking it into the club. And sort of so it goes on, and you think, it's
but it only lasts for a few days.
It's bugging my week up.
So again? It's what?
It's bugging my week up.
You got it now?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realise that. Okay.
Yeah, I've got it at the same time as Stuart. Stuart gave it to me.
No, it wasn't me. I can prove it.
But we were out together. and I haven't got it. But
I
I had
either
it a
got
few
it.
weeks
I either
back.
got it at the theatre when we were all together. So
Yeah.
Tim and his wife, Steve and his wife, and Nick, we were out to the theatre last Thursday. Or the day before, I went and got my hair cut at one of these Turkish barbers in Leon Solent.
Yeah, well, there you go, dirty
And
Well,
Turk.
that's it then. You gave it to us.
so, yeah.
Are you over it
Because
now,
I've
Stuart?
had it.
Yeah, I'm pretty much over it now. I'm in sort of day 4, day 5, and just a bit sort of bunged up, but yeah, pretty much over it. It's a short, sharp shock. It really is. 2 days of absolute horribleness, and then you come out of it. And I think we're quite lucky, really, because it's the Omicron, which is obviously not as fierce as the earlier variants that were out there.
Mm. As you know, it's Omicron.
Well, I don't. I'm just assuming that.
Yeah, that's the one that's virulent at the moment.
Mm.
There seems to be a lot of it about.
Yeah.
I mean, Ro and I had it the other week, and it's just like a cold, a snotty nose cold. To be honest, I've had worse colds. It's always just grotty for a couple of days and a bit snotty for about 3 or 4 days, and a bit of a cough, and then it's all just cleared up. But,
yeah, I've had colds that have lasted longer, but they weren't quite as fierce. It was quite bad. 2 days and 2 nights. Yeah.
I've been really lucky in that working on public transport for the last 2 years. I've managed to not catch it at all, and that's with having tests twice a week. But what we've found is that even when the government guidelines changed to it's just another respiratory infection now, my work's gone down the same route as Becky's and said, if you've got it, just don't come in. It's not worth writing off the entire workforce for a few days, even though most people recover quickly. There's a few blokes that I work with that are early 60s. One's only 6 months away from retirement, and then there's a few people who like got family issues. One of them's wife's terminal cancer, and he said if the work wasn't putting the safeguarding in place, he would have quit on the spot because he can't afford to take that home to her. And there's been a spree recently where we think they all worked on the same train together, where it wasn't actually cleaned before it came off the main line and into our depot.
Oh, so easy, isn't it?
All 4 people that were working on the same train within a few days of each other, all 4 of them ended up off with COVID within 24 hours of each other.
Yeah, we've got I think 2 of the harbour control team, 2 of the 16 that are involved with harbour control are off at the moment with COVID. So their rosters, well, that's obviously fundamental to keeping the harbour open, but there's enough slack in the roster for somebody else to swap a shift. But it's still that's our number one bit in business continuity. But as you say, we're not out. How's it in Cornwall? What's the rates like down there at the moment?
It's pretty bad, actually. It's among the worst in the country, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in fact, my wife, Sophie, she thinks she's got it at the moment. She's been in bed all day.
Oh, no.
She's done 2 tests, but they both come back negative, but she's got all the symptoms. But those tests don't always work very well anyway, do they? I mean, you know, it's... I thought I had it before Christmas.
Going around as well. There's a normal sort of winter colds that are going around.
Yeah, could be that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought this was. But I couldn't get any of the lateral flow tests, so I went down a PCR, and it came back positive.
Well, Helen was feeling rough.
If it wasn't that, then you could feel freer and actually go out and stuff. But because it's COVID, I just feel like I can't do that.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel right, does it? Just
no.
I wouldn't feel happy knowing I'd gone into the club and infected somebody, and
exactly.
You just never forgive yourself.
No.
I think
that was the only thing during lockdown that affected me. Do you know, a lot of people, the whole lives almost came to a complete standstill.
Yeah.
I was still able to do almost everything that I do normally, like great outdoors for exercise, going to work as a key worker. But it was the loss of going to the boat that affected me, because it was that amazing summer and spring with like perfect weather to have just been anchored somewhere or going for day sails in the days off. And it was knowing that because I don't live in Gosport, I couldn't even go over the bridge and have a look at my boat. It was like it's 20 miles away from me, and it's sat. I don't know if it's afloat, if it's underwater, if anything needed doing, and the condition of my ropes or anything along them sort of lines. And after speaking to a lot of people and the first opened up, that seems to be the majority of people who are boat owners thing, is that if you owned a car, you could go for a drive for enjoyment. If you wanted to play sports, you couldn't go into a gym, but you could go and play football after a certain time. And we still were not officially
But we were one of the first sports to be allowed to go and not necessarily do it as an event, but we were allowed to go and do it. To give the RWA their credit, they pushed hard to get us back out there. And as soon as we were allowed, I launched my dinghy from Fort Blockhouse, rode into Hornet, about 7 or 8 o'clock at night, jumped on the boat, took it back out to the midstream, tied it up, and rode back to Blockhouse and tied the dinghy up on the pontoon, where Andy Fenner promptly stuck a sticker on the dinghy saying, what was it, Grey Fender, tender to Brenda, because the boat's Brenda's J. And I said to all my colleagues, I'm the dinghy on Petrol Pier if anybody asks. And I did that for about, 7 weeks, because it was just too much hassle to go via the club, to get clearance for this, to that, to be one of the 20 people. So I just rented it from Blockhouse.
You were lucky. We were in Spain. The boat was in Spain.
Yeah, well, when you went to Spain, it was probably very nice.
Spain was a lot stricter. A lot stricter.
So who's going to go to Barcelona to see the America's Cup then?
Oh, yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Would be good.
Yeah.
Is that going to be autumn year after next? Is that right?
2024. Yeah.
Yeah, year after next. So Mr. Ainsley hasn't commented. I'd have thought that the Ineos UK or whatever they're called these days would have made a statement by now, but we'll sit tight.
Yeah, the Kiwis aren't that happy, are they? Because I think it's all down to funding or something. They don't think they can make the money down there.
Well, the Kiwi government wouldn't bankroll them, would they?
Yeah, that's right.
And so they weren't able to. And of course now they've got to ship out back to Europe, which is as our lot know, quite a costly process. So I think in a way it's good for the America's Cup that it's brought it back to Europe. So it's a bit like some classes. They'll do a European, they'll do a World Championships in Europe one year, then they'll do another year will be the Australasia, as in Australia or New Zealand or the Pacific somewhere, and then the following year they go to the US. So I think that's quite a good mentality, because obviously depending on where you are in the world, depends how far you've got to ship your vessel. But I think quite a smart move by the America's Cup group, whoever it is. I suppose it's Team New Zealand at the end of the day, isn't it? But they've got to work it out.
I feel sorry for the actual New Zealand fans, because it's their one opportunity to all get down there and take part, isn't it, and watch it. They just won't get that chance. Not many of them will be able to come up to Europe, I wouldn't have thought.
Well, I had a few friends that were going to go to New Zealand. About 4 or 5 people were going to go to New Zealand and have a look at it. I don't actually find it that interesting to watch. I think Sail GP is a better spectacle. I think they've got it a bit more. I don't know, a bit more media savvy. I think the America's Cup's on catch up with that. So I think they've got it right in that respect. But that's obviously Larry Ellison throwing a bucket load of cash at it to keep ahead of the America's Cup, because obviously he didn't want to do the America's Cup. Now he lost it that year. So I think it's interesting times, I think, for that sort of fleet racing. And then, of course, by then, the interesting thing by then is it will be the run up to the next Vendée Globe. So they're going to have to think about the timings. And then is it in between? There's a Volvo race. Yeah, there's an ocean race is starting in January next year from Alicante. So there's obviously something going on in Spain.
They were talking about getting the whitbread up and running again. Looking at doing a whitbread around the world.
With the Oh,
that
that was
style
the
anyway.
Golden Globe thing, wasn't it? The Ocean Globe. Yeah, that's got a bit quiet.
With some of the original boats.
Yeah.
I think probably COVID put a kibosh on that.
There was a statement back in January or November or something that they had to put a deposit down by a date in January, and then they were going to decide. And there was talk about Pendweek and another vessel doing it and they were using it as sort of a bit of a encouraging young sailors, and it was going to be a bit of a pay as you go thing. But I don't know where that's got to. Pete Sanders was telling me today he's got a load of customers doing the single-handed Golden Globe equivalent. I can't remember when the next one starts, but he was saying he's got a few lined up for that. So there's a huge amount of people doing that one, which is something.
And there's the Clipper as well, isn't there?
Yeah, they're underway again. Haven't heard much from them in the last few days. They're underway.
I've seen them out training and stuff. They've got the training boat that came in. Yeah,
they left the Philippines last week.
All right.
So they're on their way home, but I don't know when their next race is. It's probably not this year. Next year, I'd have thought. So it won't be time to turn the fleet around.
Yeah.
See where that goes.
Because I see we've got the Ostar as well, haven't we?
Was there an Ostar this year? Is there?
Yeah, because I know Neil's doing it.
Neil.
He used to run the lightship.
Nutty Neil.
Nutty Neil.
Oh, okay. He's going to do it, is he?
Yeah, he's got a new boat, hasn't he?
Has he? Has he got the one with the orange top on it?
Yeah, I think it is, isn't it? I can't remember now.
Yeah, I know the one
I've
you
not
mean.
seen it for ages. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realise he was going to do that. Because it's around Britain and Ireland two-handed this year as well, I think. There's quite a lot happening this year.
Yeah.
But it's...
We're back in a minute.
Oh, Tim's back in a minute, yeah.
But the Ostar is the last... Did you hear it? Did you come to his talk?
No, I didn't know that was on.
Neil was not a good talker, and he was sort of pretty much led by Roger. I forget, he used to run a sailing school. And some of the stuff Neil went through and still survived was it's quite remarkable, really.
Because he did that one a couple of years ago when what's his name? Mervyn Wheatley got hoiked off his boat.
Yes.
Tamarind. Yeah. I went to Mervyn's talk.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I know Mervyn reasonably well because he's ex-Clipper and he was the time there when I was there. So
yeah, I think
that was an interesting talk.
Well,
yeah.
But Neil's not a good talker.
That's a shame.
But yeah, I mean, you bent his bowsprit in a storm.
Okay.
In the next storm, it bent it back again. That's a big lump of stainless to bend, you know?
Yeah.
Interesting story.
I'm afraid I have to drop off, fellas. Apologies, I've got to drop off because if I don't take the dog out, I'm going to have an unpresent present on the floor.
Oh, lucky you. All right, then.
Catch you next time.
See you later.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
All right.
So it leaves the four of us.
I probably shouldn't say it. I really enjoyed, like watching the highlights of all the yacht racing and the major events, as you say, like the round the world races, whether it's the Volvo or the Clipper, and like the America's Cup. But I couldn't actually pay to go and watch the America's. Do you know, like when it was in Portsmouth and people were paying to sit in this sort of bleachers on the seafront, I'd be sat there going, I'd rather be in my own boat watching this from a distance, or sort of just turn on the news or the phone and catch the highlights at the end of the day. I can't get my head around the people that, do you know, like the live cameras on board the boats now, where they've got the sort of streaming of them.
Why would you watch it from the beach? You'll see more from being on. Unless you're watching the same stream on the the big screen. They put a big screen up, don't they?
Yeah.
I think that's quite good. But
we did that. We booked the Olympics. We drove down to Weymouth because we didn't get any tickets for the Olympics at all. But we drove down to Weymouth because they said nobody's actually going to Weymouth. And we went down there. It was absolutely fantastic day. And we sat on the beach and they had huge screens set up to watch Olympics. And we sat on the beach for a picnic and watched Olympics. And it was really good.
Yeah.
In the America's Cup, we didn't pay. We had freebie tickets because we're local. Sorry, Steve, you live too far away, mate.
Yeah, that's.
And then we went
I'm in
and
an
then
SO
we went
postcode, so.
Yeah, and then we went out with Andy, and we
Yeah.
anchored off and watched the racing as well.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause I think I was going to this. I think I went to Canada just beforehand. No, somebody gave me a ticket, and I had like an afternoon to kill. So I took the ferry over and went and had a look. And the following morning, I jumped on the plane and went to Halifax and brought a 72 back. I remember that now. Yeah, it was really weird because when I'd left, it was all like buzzing, and when I come back, it was like, oh, here we are.
Yeah, because don't forget the weather was bad as well. I mean, we went over there. I think we had tickets to go over there. Actually, we went over 2 days. And the first day we went over there, and the weather was so bad, and I think we was over there for an hour.
Christ.
You know, and we actually huddled under a shelter of a bar and had a beer, and decided enough was enough and came back. All the bars were inside the marquees. You had to stand outside, and it was quite disappointing, really. And that they hadn't thought about the weather.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting if they did it again.
When the Portsmouth America's Cup was on, it was my official last medical prior to leaving the Navy. And I'd said to my boss, I've got this medical, it's in Portsmouth Dockyard. And I was completely oblivious at the time. I knew the America's Cup was going on. Excuse me. I'd started working before my official discharge date because I got permission to do so. And I had to convince a bloke that knew that I liked sailing that I was definitely not going to Portsmouth on purpose to watch the sailing. And I said to him, look, if I was going to go sailing, I'd say to you, mate, I'm going to go and watch the sailing. It's a medical appointment. And I had to explain to him that my idea of fun was not battling a few 100,000 people to see what I could go and watch on my own boat. And he didn't believe me to the day that he left that company. He said to me, you still haven't ever been honest with me about that. And I even took him the discharge papers with the final medical date on when I was in Pompey for a medical. And he went, yeah, that probably took you an hour and you booked the whole day off, which means that you probably went sailing for the rest of the day.
But if it was your day's leave, it doesn't matter, does it? What you do in your day's leave?
No, that's it. I had to book the day off as leave because it was nothing to do with the company. I did go sailing, but not in Pompey. I actually took a boat round to Littlehampton and was at Arran Yacht Club for the day doing some regatta that weekend. But yeah, it was. I wasn't anywhere near the seafront, but to the day that I left the company, he was adamant that that's why I took my day's leave. It had nothing to do with a medical. I was going to watch the boats.
Some people are a little bit blinkered, aren't they?
Yeah. Speaking of which, has anybody heard that there's an air show on this year at Bournemouth, the Bournemouth Air Show?
Yep.
And the Red Arrows are going to be there.
Oh, are they?
Yeah. And it was on telly, I think, they're talking about it. And they showed you a shot of a previous air show. And of course, you've got hundreds of boats anchored off the beach there. You can watch it from your boat. You get a fantastic view from your boat. Or you can go and, as Steve said, sit in a little compound where you've been herded in and pay some money, watch it from the shore if you want. But I think it'd be a crack
all about anchoring off there, watching the air show.
Go on then.
There's about 1,200 boats, all anchored.
Right.
Half of them are dragging.
Right.
It's chaos. It's absolute. And then you've got an ice cream boat coming around. You've got a couple of warships parked up there, and then you've got landing craft coming in and out. And there's a little bit of a swell when you're getting the ferries that are charging in and out as well. It's quite good fun. I mean, if it's a nice day, it's good to anchor there. But the problem you've got is that you've got to get the tide right to go back into the Solent. So you've either got to leave early, or if you leave late, or you go.
Or just go on to Poole or to Swanage or somewhere.
In there, yeah. So
yeah,
it's good fun. I mean, it's really good fun. I mean, you can go Studland.
Yeah. Rip up some seagrass.
Yeah.
If you left early enough, you could always go to Lulworth as well, couldn't you?
Yeah.
You'll get many in there. You get a few in there.
Yeah. It does get a bit tight in there. I mean,
gets a bit rolly as well.
Yeah, it depends on the wind direction. If it's northerly, it's not too bad.
Mm.
But anything with anything sort of southwest in it, all
Mm.
the way round to sort of east.
Bit like Swanage and Studland, they're a bit like that, aren't they?
Yeah.
Mm.
So
Yeah, when it's coming from the east, it's not very good, is it?
It'd be perfect
Swanage?
weather to go down the West Country at the moment. It'd just be great.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's the
bloody work.
easterlies at the moment. I mean,
Well,
easterlies would be great.
Yeah.
Anybody's seen the forecast for Easter?
No.
I've seen it.
No.
It's rain for the next 10 days, just about, or
Is it?
Is
snow
it?
as we had today.
It bloody would be, wouldn't it?
No, as long as it's not bloody snow.
I took some overtime for next week because I looked at they asked me today if I wanted to do some additional work, and I went, I'm going to check it's not boat working weather first. Went on the Met Office app, and it's supposed to be heavy rain from Sunday mid-evening all the way through until Thursday next week, and I'm back at work on Friday, so that was all I cared about.
Is it? Yeah. I just wonder what it's doing for Easter. Oh, I haven't seen the. I suppose that's medium term now, isn't it? 2 weeks time, isn't it, Easter?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Yeah. So I just. It's that crystal ball time of year, isn't it? There's a spring tide, obviously, this weekend. So we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, well, I've got a lift out on the 19th of April, so that's probably too far away to think about anything like that.
Well, I've got to take my motorbike all the way up to Godstone on the 12th, because she's going in for a service, have the belts done, and to get ready for the MOT. So hopefully it's going to turn back to decent weather then. And then on the Easter Friday, on Good Friday, going up to London to take part in Rolling Thunder.
Oh, cool.
Which is the last time they did it, it was about 22,000 motorbikes descended on central London. So that should be quite a giggle. And there's my patch for it. Look, Rolling Thunder. Dun, dun, dun.
It's not looking very nice.
Good.
So
it's not looking very nice.
Is that wet patch of weather continuing on to the end of the following week?
So long range forecast from Tuesday for 10 days. Through Tuesday, any rain across northern parts will mostly clear through the day, leaving some rain and drizzle on upslopes always. Elsewhere will remain dry, cloudy and breezy, though feeling cold for some parts of the far north and northeast. Further unsettled conditions are expected to return later in the week, with most areas seeing spells of rain or showers, potentially wintry or on high grounds. Periods of drier and more settled weather are still possible, but more short-lived than recently. Showers may be heavy at times, with hail and thunder possible. Strong winds are also likely, mainly in the north and west, with temperatures near or slightly above the average, whatever the average is. And then for Easter, likely remaining unsettled during the start of this period, with periods of rain and showers and likely brief, drier interludes. Showers may be heavy at times, perhaps thundery, with a chance of hail. Strong winds are also probable, particularly in the north and west. Towards late April, there are tentative signs of more settled conditions redeveloping. Although rain and showers may remain possible, temperatures are most likely at above the average, especially in the south. So there you go. Updated today at 4 o'clock. My mother will have some saying, but tomorrow being the 1st of April, about some day or another where the ash is out before the oak and something on St. Swithin's Day and a bird in a bush and all that sort of stuff. So no doubt she'll come up with something tomorrow. It's often true, in fairness to her, in the middle of the countryside anyway, where there isn't any microclimates from population. But yeah, all that I know, it was chuffing windy in the harbour today, and it was really noisy in the building. But it wasn't
cold
rough,
as well.
The Gosport Ferry didn't have to put its windscreen wipers on. It was just bumpy.
It was.
That's how we gauge how rough it is.
In the air today.
Hey.
So it was a definite bite in the air today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It snowed. Did you guys have snow?
Yeah, we had a
tried
we
to.
were out at Chichester when it was snowing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got lunchtime up in Bedford, and Sophie rang me about 2 hours later to say that she'd just gone outside and it was snowing in Horton Heath, Hedge End area at around about 2:30.
Yeah, it snowed about 3:45 because I came out of the office about 3:45 and it was big snowflakes. But by the time I got off the Gosport ferry on the Gosport side, it had finished. So it was just a quick. But you could see it. You could see it coming down the harbour, the big snow coming out of the cloud. And then by the time I cycled home, it was quite warm. So it was a bit of everything today, really. But, yeah. See what
We're generally quite lucky down here, aren't we? The weather we get down here is better than anywhere up in the Midlands or the North. It's so much better.
Yeah. Why would you want to go to the frozen North, eh?
Tomorrow's looking all right. Cold though. Oh, it'll be a frost in the morning. Yeah, that'll be cold on the bike in the morning.
Yeah. Speaking of the frozen North and COVID as we have been, I think the thing that helped me out best of all when I had COVID, Steve, you might take a note of this if you're feeling rough, is Scotch whisky. I tell you what, that Chris Whitty, he could really make a name for himself if he told people to drink Scotch whisky when they've got COVID. Fact.
Yeah, I find gin's probably a bit better.
No, my next page, please.
Although I had rum. Rum's not been too bad either.
Rum.
That pineapple rum is really good.
Oh, that apple rum.
The pineapple.
Have you seen the Morgan's spiced apple rum?
Yeah.
No.
You can do a bottle of that in an evening.
Yeah, the pineapple.
I've recently tried the
one.
Morgan's Tiki. Is that the one you're on about, Steve?
Yeah.
No. A friend of mine bought me a bottle of pineapple rum. And me and Tim and Stuart, we managed to drink most of it on the day he gave it to us.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
It's quite good.
Yeah, they bought out the Morgan's Tiki. That's got like pineapple and mango spiced or something.
Yeah.
It's I think it's 30 or 35%. It's not very strong. And
yeah, that's like this apple one.
Cracked a bottle of that. Was just sipping casually, and then went to pour some more. Picked the bottle up and sort of went, rats, it's gone.
Yeah, I've done that.
Too easy.
Yeah,
it does slip down very well. So, for next week, then, any ideas what we can talk about next week? Thursday next week. So we talked about boats this time.
A little bit.
I think you need to get Jim Davidson on to give us a bit of entertainment.
Yeah.
Maybe do boats version 2.
Do boats version 2, or just an open forum. Do an open forum to talk about all manner of crap.
It would have to be stink boats if Jim Davidson's coming on.
Yeah.
I think the fact that I mentioned sailing to him put him off. But I saw Jim in 2009 in Lashkar. He came out with Catherine Jenkins to do a CES show, and I had a chat with him then. And the next time I saw him was last summer. We were motoring into the Bewley River, and these 2 stink boats came up behind us and overtook us, and one of them had Jim on the helm. So I shouted to him, get out of my way, slow down.
Did he realise it was you?
Yeah, I shouted, last time I saw you was in Afghanistan. What are you doing here? What are you doing with that big stinky thing? So we had a bit of a giggle, and then we caught up with him up at Buckler's Hard.
My friend's currently the chief stoker on board the Defender, and when they were coming back from deployment last year, they got back in December in Pompey. They had Jim Davidson come on board, and he gave them like a comedy show in the hangar. And he said, as weird as this is, I know I'm the youngest one on the chat here, and I always remember from like the Generation Game and Big Break and things like that, and obviously the affiliation with the forces. But he said pretty much anyone mid-20s and below was going, who's this guy? And he's not that funny because his sense of humour is older and stuff. And we're like, what are you talking about? This guy ain't funny.
He's a legend.
He's trying to explain to people who he was, and he lost on them.
Yeah.
He's a proper legend.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll see if I can get hold of him, see if he'll come on. And we'll just have a general one. We'll have a comedy night.
Maybe you ought to get those two from the that are stuck in Lagos.
Oh, have you heard what Andy today? Have you seen messages from Andy?
I haven't any message, Mandy. No.
Oh.
All right.
Should I
stay
text
on
them?
after?
Sorry?
I'll update you. Stay on after. I'll update you.
Yeah.
So he's I spoke to him yesterday. I had a chat with him yesterday, but something's happened today. Well, I'll update you in a bit.
Okay, that's cool.
So we're nearly getting to the end of the show. I think it's gone all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we've had quite a few people in and out of the chat. So thanks to Harry for dropping by, and for Alistair for dropping by.
Yep.
So, I could do another mental health special, but last time I had one of those, the guys that were coming on all had meltdowns. So I think the thought of coming on doing a live stream talking about mental health issues, they sort of struggle with, I guess.
We could do one on underwater. I guess. I mean, I'm a scuba diver. I know that Steve Holloman's done scuba diving. Tiny, you're quite handy at going underwater. I don't know whether Becky's done much of it.
Submarine.
Wouldn't get me in the water unless I'm absolutely desperate. I'm sea survival, and that's it. I can't stand going in the sea.
It's for going on, not in.
Yeah, precisely.
And as for going under it, well, you can forget that, my love.
What's that about?
Yeah, it's bizarre behaviour.
Money.
There's all sorts of things that can bite and eat you under there.
Yeah.
Well, money's the answer to that for me. I was 19,
Extra
3
money,
years into my career, and I was offered $7,500 bonus and £500 a month more for going Submariner. And the person that invited me to do it, they had, because they were so short-manned, he was offered, if I signed a bit of paper that said he recommended me, if I qualified, he got, I think it was £2,000 taxable. So we walked home with about 1,300 quid as well. So that's how I ended up Submariner, because a bloke on a ship wanted some extra money, and he said to a 19-year-old, "Here, do you want a large sum of cash and some extra money each month?"
Yeah.
And that's why you ended up with a boat.
I had numerous boats growing up, dinghies and small ribs, like little 2 and 3 meter things for prattling around on the water. From the time that I actually joined the Navy, I did not know. Nobody told me from 2005 all the way through until 2012 when I first started going down to 2012, 10 years ago when I first started going down to Hornet. And that was because someone I'd made friends with went, "Here, mate, you drive. Do you mind helping me carry some wood to my boat?" And once I got down there, I went, "What's this place?" And he went, "Oh, yeah, you can come and do all your courses and use them Victorias over there. And you can go on exercise." And I went, "Why? Why is this not publicised?" Because I'd have continued sailing. I had that sort of 7-year hiatus where as close as I got to the water was stepping on board something that belonged to Her Majesty. But I was talking about this with someone in the club recently, and they said that you look at it and you've got the RAF hardly on the water unless it's people that enjoyed sailing before, but then you've got squaddies that are told, like 20, 30 people mob-handed at a time, "Right, you lot are going sailing whether you like it or not," and come out the other end of it. and maybe 10 out of the 30 might go, actually, this is all right, and go for it again.
Well,
whereas in the RN, there's very few people, unless they enjoy sailing prior to joining, that actually get the chance to go and do it.
I think certainly at least, probably 8 years ago, something like 60% of the output went to the Army, 22% went to the RAF, and the balance went to the Navy, because the Navy was always the smallest anyway, so proportionally it would always be the smallest. And of course tomorrow's a big day, because the Army are taking over the running of it, on paper anyway, because the Navy are so broke, amongst other things, they're handing it over to the Army. So I think that actually puts joint service sailing actually in quite good stead. If the biggest customer's going to run it, rather than the smallest customer, that means that the MOD are behind it. So they've got all the boats from Kiel, obviously, now, and they've got all those Victorias. I mean, they were out, I don't know about last week, but certainly the last time I looked at the board, there was 12 Victorias out, 72 out. I think the 55 still in the shed. But at the end of the day, all those post-COVID, there's always going to be a bit of a lull, but everybody tells me, when I was over at UKSA yesterday, they just can't get enough boats for charter because everybody wants to learn to sail. So hopefully all those junior rates and junior officers and everybody else will go back to enjoying it again, and they'll be able to get a bit more funding.
Yeah. It's one of them things where when I was in HMS Sultan, I was one of the Sultan boat skippers, and there was me and 3 other people that would do it regularly. I mean, Thomas Reed, who a lot of people know, Tom was one of them. Ralph Budden was one, and Kev, that ran the boat section, was another.
Yeah.
And then in the last 12 months, when things have sort of opened up, I said, "Oh, who's running the boats?" And obviously they gave the news that they're looking to get rid of one of them, and the other one's been out the water for quite a substantial amount of time, and then finally put back in. So they don't have anybody on the establishment that wants to go and do this. So people don't enter their boats in the Wednesday series anymore. And when you're looking at the possibility of hiring them, it used to be when they had the Sultan-owned boats that you put down like a surplus of maybe £150 and you had a boat for 3 days, so £50 a day essentially. And I looked at the possibility of hiring one of their boats, and it was going to cost me nearly £2,000 for a week. I says, why would you go through the rigmarole of doing that when you can go and get a completely modern like Beneteau oars, or something that's got all furling gear on it and electric winches and things for a few £100 less.
Yeah.
They also used to take the phase 2 trainees, the part 2s from Collingwood and Sultan out.
Yeah, they did, didn't they? But then they realised they could do it on they realised there was more available training days at Hornet at Joint Services Fleet, so they put them on the Joint Services Fleet because they was all part of cost-cutting. Because the guys that were running Sultan boats were contractors, not Crown employees. So it was all quite politically
They don't even
driven.
do that anymore. So the people coming through as trainees don't actually get to go sailing. So there's potentially like a generation of people that have never stepped foot on a boat in their life that have missed the opportunity to get the introduction, that don't know that the facilities exist.
I could talk all day about this subject, having been on both sides of the fence, so to speak, and looking at the budgets and everything else. It's a difficult one. But you're right. Joint service sailing is definitely one of the underutilised, under-marketed parts of adventurous training. And hopefully the Army will improve that. So that's all we can do, isn't it?
I think I can shed a little bit of light on that. I think the problem with any adventurous training, any sport in the military, is it's a numbers game. And when I was in London, one of the problems of trying to get guys away is everything evolved around the ceremonial piece, and they couldn't let people go because they didn't have the numbers for the guards. So anything that was outside ceremonial, you was lucky to get. I mean, until they made it compulsory that people had to go. You had to have a certain percentage guys go away a year to do adventurous training.
I think
just one
probably
of those
15
things.
years ago now, maybe a bit longer, there was a lot of slack isn't the right word, but there was more availability of the people to go and use the fleet. So there was a lot of big expeds going. I mean, one year there was 3 big expeds, 2 going around the world, and another one going around the Atlantic. You know, that was pre-2010, so that's however long ago it is. And there was people to do it, but certainly in the last few years, they'd seen a shift because you couldn't get people for the long legs. People couldn't get 5 weeks off, 4 weeks off. Because the line manager would say, "Well, if you're not needed for 4, if I sign you off for 4 weeks, then who else is going to do your job?" Whereas if they signed you off for a week, they were happy with it, or something similar. So the other thing that's also happened during the pandemic is there's been a huge uplift in people. You know, we've all heard about Britannia training juniors and officers in the same real estate, which is, I can't speak for the Army and the RAF, but also I know what's going in the Navy a little bit more. And I think hopefully that generation of people will start to come through. The Navy chartered Tenacious, the Square because they realised they'd taken all these people on and they weren't able to go and do phase 2 and phase 3 training because they were only set up for 100 people, for argument's sake, and now they had 150. So in the end, they put a whole load of people through Tenacious just to give them a bit of sea time. So hopefully there'll be some fallout from that, and maybe for joint services as well. But so we're the converted. That's the important bit, and it's
absolutely.
Hopefully,
anyway,
it'll get continued to be
we're at
used.
time, so I'm just going to drop you down. I'll put a thank you on at the end, and then we'll close the show. So if you want to hang around for the after show, the after party, shall we say? So I'm just going to drop you down.
All right.
Thanks,
Steve.
Steve.
I'm going to say cheerio.
Thanks,
yeah, nice to see you all.
Cheers,
See you
guys.
next time.
We're going to drop off now.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Bye.
Cheers.
Okay. Bye.
Well, that's another successful Thirsty Thursday. Thanks everybody for joining in this evening. If you've enjoyed it, leave a like and a comment. And next week, I think we're going to have probably an open forum. So if you want to talk about anything you like, pop it into the comments, pop us an email, pop us a message, and we'll have a good chat next week. So in the meantime, I'd just like to thank everybody that's joined in and watched. So same time, same place next week, 7 till 9 on Thursday.